me from his home, I think. Where are you? You're in Sanford?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
am
right?
in Pace, Florida, and just outside of
Pace, Florida.
Pensacola. We're in the Panhandle. We like to call it L.A., Lower Alabama, because we're more like Alabama than most of what people think of Florida. So,
Yeah. But anyway, Hunt the Front's Joshua Joyner. Joshua, this is actually your third time on the show, and I haven't done one of these conversations episodes in a long time. Just like I'm kind of at a point where I'm only interested in like really cool conversations, and I'm not just going to do interviews to do them. But your third time on the show, obviously, I wanted to have you on. You guys have had your first full season of the Hunt the Front series, your own streaming service, plus all the other usual stuff you guys got going on with the team. But let's start first with current events here. What did you think about the Dirt Track World Championship at Eldora last night?
it was exciting. First of all, thanks for having me on again.
Yep.
I think that's a compliment what you said there. So thanks for having me on. But yeah, it was exciting. I think that's what Lucas Oil was going for when they planned the Big Four format. I posted about it on Facebook. I don't usually post about stuff like that, but I'm not a big fan of it. The way they did it. But it was exciting. So if that's what they were going for, that's great. I just, when the championship's determined by a race that only saw essentially 6 or 7 cars finish that were competitive in the race at the end, I don't know that that's the way you want to decide your championship, but it was the most exciting and dramatic moment, perhaps of any dirt late model race I've witnessed. So, that's cool.
Did you guys talk about taking your car there? Was that discussed at any point?
Yeah, we discussed it with Joseph going. I mean, the cool thing about that format for the race itself is, when you go to Eldora as a race team, there's so much racing and so much inverts and the wheel spin and all that invert, for the heat races. It takes so much to get to the feature, right? That even if you're fast in qualifying and fast in your heat races, you don't, you might things might not shake out in your favor, and that's what's happened to Joseph the last 2 times we've been there. And it's almost like, man, you go there this time for the dirt track and be fast in your qualifying, fast in your heat race, and you're starting up front of the feature. And so I don't make the decisions for the race team. Just to reiterate, I hear what they decide or their conversations. So they thought about it, but ultimately, Joseph wanted to go run the crate race at Alltech, the Powell Family Memorial. He won that last year. Felt he'd be pretty competitive, and he ended up fourth in it. So it was a solid weekend and a little closer to home and easier to do than going all the way to Ohio and what ultimately was a challenging weekend from the rain and the track conditions.
I think your main focus at this point is probably Hunt the Front Super Dirt Series, correct?
Yes, I would. Yeah, I'm still involved a little bit on the YouTube side and the business side over there. The what we're doing for Hunt the Front specifically, but my main focus is the race team and the streaming company, Hunt the Front TV. I'm sorry, the series, not the race team, the series and the streaming company.
So you guys are coming off of your first full season. You still got a couple races left. Obviously, the championship's been decided at this point, but not only do you start a series this year, but you also start a streaming service to cover that series. But just give me an overall. What are your thoughts after year one here?
Well, I don't know. I haven't had a chance to really stop and think about it too much, just because we've, I mean, you're yes, the point season is over. I went on a family vacation across the country, which I did have some time to think about because I drove 22 hours essentially by myself to go on a family vacation in the RV, and my family met me out there. But it still doesn't feel like it's over. So like I think we've got the biggest race that we've yet had on the platform, on our streaming platform, yet coming up this week. So I haven't really had a chance to really look back and think about things because I've been kind of having to worry about this and make sure everything is moving along and ready to go for that for the National 100. Talking about it at East Alabama Motor Speedway. But overall, when I think about it, I think we learned a lot. There's a lot of things we'd like to do, wish we could have done better, and we'll try to do better going forward. But overall, I think we had a pretty solid first season as a series. We had 8 drivers follow the entire tour. Had a heck of a points battle that came down to the last race with 3 guys for my money, 3 of the top guys in the Southeast region with Josh Putnam, Joseph Joyner, and Will Harrington battling out for the championship. Had a great story for the Rookie of the Year with Trey Mills, a teenage driver, emerging kind of out of nowhere to be pretty good and competitive on the tour. And overall, a lot of positive feedback from drivers, tracks, and fans. So, yeah, we're happy with it, and I will call it a success, but with the caveat that we have a lot of room for improvement for year 2.
Is it what you thought it would be?
I That's a tough question. I think if you'd asked, I think yes and no. Big picture, yes, it is what I thought it would be, and kind of had an idea of what we'd be doing. But when you get down into the details of all the things we've gone through and everything we've had to do this year, I would say no. There were a lot of things that popped up that I had no idea. From track conditions, like you saw with Lucas Oil Door last night. We faced a similar situation at Magnolia earlier in the year. All the rainouts we dealt with in the first half of the season, which seems like ages ago now, because we did so much racing in the second half of the season, to suspensions and fights and stuff, and then also the receiver issues at tracks. We've had stuff you don't even realize until you actually do it and get in there and see the kind of stuff that happens, and that all these sanctioning bodies and media companies, because this is kind of a dual-sided company with the streaming deal and the series that they face when you're actually in the trenches, so to speak, doing it. So it was a learning experience for a lot of us, for all of us involved. We have a big team, and it took a group effort to get through it. And I think overall we handled things well, and excited to keep improving and moving forward.
When you have questions, when you run into issues, is there somebody that you were able to lean on this year? Like, was that your team? The people that you brought in, was that somebody outside the series?
Yeah, absolutely. The first, that's an easy answer, is Travis Scott, our announcer. He was, although he was our announcer, he was as much in charge, I feel like, as I was as series director this year, because every decision I made, whether it was a scheduling decision or a rules decision or something we had to do, or in the moment decision, I was going to him to look for answers. There's times he'd be in the announcer's booth, and I'd have to go over there, and he and I would put our heads together and come up with a solution, an answer to whatever problem we were having, which unfortunately happened more often than I wanted it to. Like I said, some behind the scenes stuff that you just don't know about until you get into it. But yeah, he was. We hired him to be the announcer, and ended up having somebody who probably the most experienced person when it comes to operating a series on our team, and he was definitely. Has been a resource, and so I guess it's a good time to say it, because we haven't announced it publicly yet, getting ready to, but he is actually not going to be our announcer anymore, and is going to be promoted to our what we're calling Director of Race Day Operations. So he's going to be essentially our race director, and when it comes to race day, essentially in charge of the series and the operations of the series, and staff and everything for our events, and that'll start this weekend at the National 100. So I'm really excited for that, to have him kind of taking over a role he's essentially already been filling to some degree, while also announcing. So, definitely he's been a very good asset to have on the team, and someone I've leaned on a lot.
You mentioned in there the suspensions thing, kind of a nasty night with Garrett Smith and his dad, and having to do suspensions and all that stuff. How do you deal with that? How do you prepare yourself for that? I feel like that's one thing that you don't hear often from series officials about, is when things go sideways, how do you keep yourself calm in those moments? And how did you kind of tackle that night?
Well, I don't know. That's a tough situation, and it was a very unfortunate situation, and situation I definitely didn't want to be in and involved with, but ultimately we had to deal with it. And I think you handle the way we approached it is you handle the situation immediately as best you can to de-escalate, I think is the word, whenever there's heated stuff going on, tempers and all that. You do your best to de-escalate the situation, get the night done. Obviously that was in the middle of a race that had happened, so we had to get back to the race at hand and get that done. And then after it's all said and done, you step back, look back. I know personally, being DIRTRACKR sanctioned, I made a lot of phone calls with Steve Francis at the World of Outlaws, was involved in the decisions we made. Sam Driggers at DIRTRACKR obviously was highly involved. I called other DIRTRACKR sanctioned series directors. Chris Sullivan at DIRTRACKR Comp Cams, talked with him about it, because ultimately the decisions and the penalties that were handed down affected everyone, and it took everyone being on board. And looking back, I really do appreciate all the support that in that situation, and that we were given as a series from all the other folks involved. And I think it was the right decision. We ended up suspending Garrett Smith for that for I think it was 90 days. His dad was the one who instigated the situation. Scott Smith, he was suspended much longer, and face stiffer penalties. And I think it was fair. And looking back, I think everyone wished it didn't happen and has moved on from it. And I think that's the best you can hope for, is that everyone at the end of the day moves on and feels better about it, and hopefully it doesn't happen again.
I kind of feel like you guys had a little bit of everything this season. You have this situation you just talked about. I know there were lots of weather issues and track things, and how hard is it when you find out that you can't run a race or you've got a rain out, to try to pivot the schedule? Is it easy to get those things done? Is it easy to find other tracks? Like, how hard is it to communicate with your drivers and figure out where they can be? Give me an idea about just your shifting schedule kind of all season.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely an interesting year with everything that we faced, as far as the schedule goes. I will say one thing I'm proud of is that we stuck to the schedule that we put out when it came to dates, so that when, what I mean is when we put out a schedule, I'll say weekends, there was some, like, we had a triple header weekend that turned into a double header, right? We added a Friday night on a couple of, things that started out as, weekends that started out as Saturday only. But overall, the schedule we came out with, by February, we had to change I think the Magnolia date was a change from what we released at PRI, but I think we had changed it by January or February. But from that point on, we stuck with the dates that we put out, which I think kind of over the last few years, at least when it comes to regional tours, got lost, and really made it hard to follow regional dirt late mile tours, because you see the schedule, you make plans, and then they put out a date that you already had something planned, or a season that goes on forever. So we definitely tried to stick with the dates that we had planned, and did that. But when you have tracks closing and canceling just out of the blue for various reasons, 2 weeks out, like you kind of, you go into scramble mode. I think, fortunately for us, what we're doing and the way we've approached our series and built the excitement around it, I guess you could say, and the following that we have, we were able to go to tracks and we didn't have a hard time filling dates whenever we lost, Boyd's when it closed, thankfully Livonia and Rome. It was we had to work out some details, but essentially they were interested from the moment I called. When Deep South, the issues that happened there, and we had to reschedule our finale, a month out, or move our finale a month out, Swainsboro was more than willing to take that date, and we worked with them to make it a successful event, so it made sense for them.
So after this first season of running the series, as you look forward to next year, what are those things that you want to fix, change, updates? Purse money? Is it the schedule? What are those things that are kind of top of mind for year 2 of the Hunt the Front series?
I would say all of the above. I think we had year one. We were kind of doing what we had to do to get dates at some of these tracks. We kind of had to prove ourselves as a series and as an operation, that we could come to a track and put on a successful event, and they could be successful hosting our events with the package that we kind of offer to tracks. So I think we did that. I think at the end of the day, all of our events that we were a part of were successful. There were a few that we'd like to tweak, looking back. But we're learning from that, and that's the changes we're going to make as far as scheduling. I know there was a stretch there in mid-August through Labor Day that we raced 3 weekends in a row. And going back to the beginning of August, it was 4 out of 5 weekends. So that was a lot of racing there, and I know it was hard. Talking with the drivers and the race teams, they were burned out. Because these regional guys, they're not full-time racers, most of them, like the national guys that travel around. That's all they do. They have jobs. They're crew guys. A lot of them have jobs and or companies or stuff that they're doing that they have to do the racing on the side. So you're asking a lot when you race that many times in a row for some of those teams. So I think, honestly, I would prefer not to have any back-to-back weekends if we could avoid. Although I do like having the points finale, from one race right to the weekend to the next. It was pretty cool. But if we can avoid it, definitely, I know for sure we will not race 3 weekends in a row next year. And if we can avoid it as back-to-backs, we'll avoid that as well. Payouts, obviously, that's a big topic of discussion in dirt late model racing, is the difference between the top money to the bottom, like how well it's spread out. We were looking at, I think we were going to improve our payouts this year for next season. and we were looking at adding money, having bigger races, paying a little more to win, and we've stepped back and said maybe we should add that further down. So, we're kind of adjusting that, talking with our tracks, talking with teams and drivers about what's best, and trying to find a balance that works for everybody. And but that is something we're considering. But our payouts will improve, and our points fund, I think we're going to do a little more, nothing huge. But when we come out with it, hopefully, definitely by PRI, when we come out with a schedule and points fund, it'll be we'll add some money there. We did the mid-season points fund deal, which was kind of new. I don't know other tours that do that. So that went really well. We were happy with that, the excitement of it, and the extra storyline it provided and drama it provided. I think we're going to increase that mid-season points fund. It paid $5,000 to win the mid-season points this year. We're going to try to go up to 10 and increase it through the top 10. So we're pretty excited about it, and hopefully it'll make for a better year too. We'll find out, I guess.
Do you think that having the involvement with the Hunt the Front late model team changed how you approach things, changed how you put it together, changed how you think about the teams that race with you?
It definitely did for me. I mean, I'm coming from a background, the race team. Our race team has to be successful, or we as a business are not successful, right? Like if we're putting on a tour and events that are, not successful from a race team standpoint, or not sustainable, from a race team standpoint, then we're putting on the series, like we as a business can't function. So I definitely when we put on the series and the events we put on, we look at it from a race team perspective of how can this make sense for the race team. So I think having that coming from that side of it, I think is a different approach and I think it helped. At least I think. Sometimes on the regional level, I don't think then that's when we started a series. I don't feel like, at least in the Southeast, they have the racers, needs and what the obstacles racers and race teams face in mind when they're making schedules and planning events and all that. So that's one thing I think definitely knowing the ins and out of the race team, from a business perspective and what it takes to get up and down the road and get a, crew to a track and even have a crew. Believe it or not, most of these guys aren't, back in the day, there was a lot of people willing to volunteer and go to the races and all that, or it was, cheap help, I guess. But these days, these teams, a lot of them, even the regional level have, full-time guys that they're having to pay, or at least they're paid. They might not be full-time, but they're, most of it's paid, a lot of paid crew members. And you got to think about that when you're asking them to race every weekend, that's a lot of budget for them to have to come up with. So definitely that perspective has helped, I think. Hopefully the series drivers that have supported and the race teams that have supported the series saw that we were thinking about them as we made decisions, because we definitely were.
Obviously, to complicate all of this, then you're starting a series, and then you obviously want this to be streamed. And I know you guys looked at a bunch of different options for ways to get that done. Eventually, settled on effectively running your own streaming service. How does that throw extra wrinkles into this whole process while you're trying to do both?
Yeah, it was definitely. I don't know, because I don't know what it would have been like to start a series without having to worry about the streaming side. I imagine it would have been a lot easier. But we basically had two new businesses, a series, and a streaming company that we essentially started. Yeah, it's all under one umbrella and one business, but you had, essentially two operations going on there. We've been fortunate, like I said, we have, had Travis on the series side, that we brought on, and that was a big help on the streaming side. Logan Gibson, who is, he's, I guess, we don't really have an official title for him, but he's in charge of our production team and everything. He built out a production trailer for us. He handled scheduling the crew, the production crew for all the events, and was really, invaluable to have him on board. And I think that's, if I've learned anything with this, is you got to have good people. The more good people you have in place and the better team you have, the easier it is to get the job done. And so I think that without, the team that we've built and put together, and it's not just those two guys, like, when we go to a series event, between the streaming side and the series staff, there's, I think we've had as many as 19 people there with us. There's at minimum 15. So, it's a major operation to do what we did this year. And for us, I think it paid off because like I said, we felt like it was a successful year. But like I said, without the people we put in place to do that, it wouldn't have been possible.
Are there any changes planned for streaming stuff for next year? Is there things you want to do better on that side and changes you want to make there?
I mean, we're always looking to improve. We'd like to bring on. We started to bring on a drone. For some of the later events there this year, we'd like to have that part become part of our regular production. But that anything you add gets pretty expensive, and then if you do it by 20, 25 races, you're increasing quite substantially the budget there. So it's baby steps, I guess, so to speak. We were happy with year one how well our production team did. We feel like, no, we're not a Flow or Dirt Vision or XR, national touring event level production just yet, but I don't think we're very far off. We have a lot of improvements. For those asking, we're working on figuring out a solution to have our app on Roku. So, the stuff like that, little tweaks here and there. We're definitely looking at. And one thing I'll add, I haven't mentioned, but the Speed Sport TV platform and Rivet, the Speed Sport TV affiliate program and the Rivet platform were great to work with this year for us. As you mentioned, we were kind of, it was almost, I'd say, kind of like a last minute deal when we decided to do our own thing, and kind of having those guys at Rivet and Speed Sport to help us were, definitely made it easier for us to make that jump, and put everything together quickly to launch everything when we did.
Obviously, you guys with that streaming service didn't just do your own events; you did lots of other events as well. Is that something you're going to continue? Is this something you hope to grow and continue to add other races to that platform as you go forward?
Yeah, so definitely we're open to that. Where it makes sense. Our whole goal with this is to support dirt track racing in the Southeast. Most specifically super late model racing, but if we see an opportunity to help support a crate late model event or street stock events that makes sense and we think it's good for the sport, then we're gonna do that. Where we can. We felt like the best move for us to be able to support racing in the Southeast was to start a series, but there are some events that don't necessarily need to be part of the series to be successful. We streamed the Fall Classic at Why Not a couple weeks ago, and that was a great event. 48 cars was one of the highest car counts they've had in years there, and they'd up the payout this year. And we kind of helped did that with some of the streaming money we were able to bring to the table. So that's one thing. We're not necessarily tied to having to make it part of a series to do these things. When it makes sense to be part of an event, we're more than happy to step in and do it. But at the same time, we think having the series is a benefit to super late model racing in the Southeast. So we got to make sure we have the races we need and, have that in the budget. And then we start looking at where we can step in and be a part of other events that help as well.
Talk about your race this week. You guys got, East Alabama National 100, big payout. Sounds like a bunch of national guys on the way. What are you looking forward to that event? How'd you guys get involved in that event?
So it's kind of, I don't remember how the conversation started. We've been a part, we've gone to East Alabama Motor Speedway a long time. That was it's not our home track, obviously. It's 3.5 hours from our hometown, but it was the closest track growing up that had big events with the National 100, the Alabama State Race. Those were events that we always went to, as kids, my brothers and I, and my dad when he was racing, and then usually the state race, and then we'd go watch the National 100 with the big name super late model guys. The Scott Bloomquist, Freddie Smith was there a lot. All the big names back in the day, and anyone who's followed the sport, and especially in our region very long, you understand, probably know that event has kind of taken a step back as other events have grown and expanded and become, the sport has grown. That event has kind of taken a step back for various reasons. When we started putting the series together, actually like 2 years ago, we started talking about putting on a series and explored the idea. That was East Alabama was one of the tracks we wanted involved. And so I reached out at the time, Melanie Richardson, and who's one of the member of the Thomas family, and her husband Richard had taken over operations. They were just getting started, and they were coming in and trying to make a lot of improvements. And we didn't ultimately put the series together that year, but we kind of kept in touch and saw what they were doing and felt like they were doing a good job with things. And then this year we put the series together. reached out, planned an event there in August, which went well. And then at that event, we kind of talked about what they were planning on doing for the state race in September, and then the National 100 in October. And with the scheduling, the XR had scheduled their 100,000 to win race at Alltech the same weekend, so they had some issues they were fighting through, and we were able to step in and say, hey, we want this event to continue. That was really the only weekend to do it. Why don't we make it a one-day show on Sunday so it doesn't conflict, the super late model portion anyway, doesn't conflict with Alltech. We're able to provide some revenue from the streaming side to make that feasible for them. And so that's initially where we started, as a 30,000 to win one-day show on Sunday, October 29th. Whatever happened with XR and them needing to reschedule an event and the weekend that they were adamant about having, they rescheduled it, so it became open for us to move back to a 2-day show. That's what the track wanted to do, and we felt that it needed a purse increase to do that. So we were able to work with them and work together to come up with a purse that made sense. And here we are, about to have a 49,000 to win race, and it's pretty exciting. It'll be, like I mentioned, to have essentially a 50,000 to win race on our streaming platform and part of our series in year one. It's crazy to think about it. Really where we are. It's I don't know how we. It's still kind of hard to explain how we got to that point, but we're looking forward to it. We feel confident about it, and think it's going to be a success for the track. Hopefully, it is for us on the streaming side, and hopefully, the drivers and race teams and fans as well enjoy it. So we're excited about it, and looking forward to the 49th annual National 100 being a big deal, and then hopefully, we keep that going forward for many more National 100s.
I know you guys are really focused on the Southeast and taking care of the Southeastern racers, but you guys have had quite a few national level teams come through and run with you guys this year. Ricky Thornton Jr. and Jimmy Owens and Brandon Overton and some of these guys. Is that like really validating when those guys show up to one of your events?
Yeah, it definitely is. When they do that, obviously, when one of those guys, kind of calls out things that happen with your series isn't a good thing. We had a receiver issue with Del McDowell at Rome. We've worked through that, but when your Victory Lane interview is calling the series, the winner saying how the series is unprofessional, whatever it was. But again, that if you know what happened there, if you're familiar with that, there was some receiver issues. I think we handled that. I know Wydell was hot in the moment, absolutely, and we talked to him afterward, and we've made changes, for that going forward. That I don't think it's going to be an issue. And anyway, besides that, yes, this has been very, positive feedback from the national guys that have dropped down and ran with us, and the fact that they're willing to, when they have a break in their busy schedules, like you said, is kind of validating that they trust us to put on a good show and treat them professionally, because they are professionals, and that was our whole goal, was to bring professionalism to regional racing in the Southeast, because we didn't feel like it was really there before, the way as a race team we felt it should be. So hopefully they're seeing that, appreciating that, and hopefully they continue to support our events when they can.
The business of Hunt the Front has expanded, it seems, very rapidly here in the last year or two. Obviously we talk streaming schedule and the series, and at the center of all this, you still have the YouTube channel, still making content. You guys got a new shop here, within the last, year and a half. Are you shocked? Do you ever get a chance to take a step back and be like, we started, as a family running dirt late models, and then we had, let's put this on YouTube, and now it's turned into this whole business. Do you ever get a chance to reflect on all of that?
I try to. I think it's easy to get caught up in the work and the stress of what we're doing. Every side of it is stressful. I know. I overheard Joseph having a phone call with, I believe it was Marshall Green at Capital Race Cars, as they were getting ready to run. They ran, crate. They still run Capitals with their crate stuff, and he was talking with him, and they were catching up. Hadn't talked in a while, and I heard Joseph talking about how it always was a dream to race professionally or race for a living, and now it's, man, you kind of look forward to an off weekend, because we get so much racing and so much work. And I think that's on every side. Jonathan with the videos, if back when he was still a school teacher, if you told him, hey, you're going to be able to quit teaching and just make YouTube videos for a living, he'd have thought, oh man, that's a dream life. And it is, he's living the dream, but I see it every day. He's stressed out and overworked and getting burned out here and there. And I feel the same way on the series. Our wives all feel the same way. They're all involved, and everyone works hard. Jesse, as well. So yeah, and I think that's important when you have to step back and look where we've come from and what we're building and what we're doing. Obviously we got to find ways, as an organization to relieve some of that stress, make it more sustainable as we look to, continue this and have a, long-term business here, that everyone's able to sustain what they're doing, on every facet of the business. But, I think that's important to look back and see how far we've come, whenever it feels stressful and feels like, or we have something doesn't go our way. We're definitely, living the dream, so to speak, and got to keep that in perspective, and focus on the positive when we can.
I want to ask a little bit just generally about the workload and I know what it means to have a YouTube channel and to put this stuff together all the time. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that think it's like, oh, you just film your stuff and then you put it on the internet and then you get to make all this money. But from where you sit, what is the workload for you? What is the workload for Joseph? What is the workload for Jonathan? Like, what does it look like for everybody on a normal week? Like, are you guys working 70, 80-hour weeks?
At least I would say.
Yeah.
So here's a perfect example. Let's talk about this week. So they're coming off a race weekend, and if they're lucky, the race team, there's maybe one weekend a month they get off. Is really more like one weekend every 6 weeks they're taking off. But they're coming off a race weekend. They get home. Usually they drive home, Saturday night and get home, by daylight Sunday morning. So they take obviously Sunday's shot, by the time they get home and everything. Usually the crew takes Monday off unless it's a busy week, and I think because they're switching back to the supers, I think they're in the shop today, already getting back to work. So they've really not had a day off when you look at it that way. They'll work until have the cars ready to go and probably leave out sometime Friday to go to the races, and then you're racing all weekend. And if they race the following weekend, just rinse, wash, rinse, and repeat. Basically doing the same thing. It's never ending. So you take a weekend off, or the season ends if it does anymore. So that's constant work for them. And Joseph, while he's the driver, he's also in charge of the race team. So he's there working with the crew and working on the cars throughout the week as well, just like they are. And along with having to be part of the content side with podcasts and videos and all that. And Twitch, when we do the live stream, the gaming stuff. Jonathan, same deal with him. He's at the races just like they are till late. He gets home Sunday, maybe catches a break. A lot of times he's already starting to edit, import. People don't even realize how much it takes just to import video, right, from a race night. That's a process in and of itself, and then you're going through and editing it. And for him to have a vlog out on Monday, he's worked a 12 hours, at least 12 hours of editing, the editing process since the race ended, to have a video out at 5 p.m. Monday. So from midnight when the race ends, the drive home till 5 p.m. Monday, he's somehow managed to put in probably 10 to 12 hours of work, right? And then it's not, take a day or two off. It's, all right, we have to have a video out, a couple more, at least one more video, sometimes two, before we turn around and go racing again this week. So that's a pretty busy schedule for them. On my side, right now for me, I'm doing a lot of trying to figure out next season. So it's a lot of phone calls, a lot of scheduling, because there's so much involved with this when you're looking at a schedule. It's not just about where we're going to be racing wise, but it's like getting the production crew there. That's the hardest thing right now. Is very scarcity among production people. So if you're looking to join a production crew and video live production, we're hiring. Shoot me an email, joshua@huntthefront.net. Because we just like everybody else. It's not just us. Everybody is looking for people. So we're trying to already have our schedule in place so we can get book shooters and book producers and graphics folks and all that. So and every time I think I have our dates set, Steve Francis with World of Outlaws calls me and tells me he's moved his, a date in the fall that, blows up my entire schedule, because we have to schedule around them. I haven't heard, what Lucas Oil, I've seen some of their dates obviously, but, in their schedule that usually comes out of the dirt track, I'm hearing is not going to be out for a while now with everything they have going on. So that's been a headache with that. And then also trying to, at the same time, plan for the events we have coming up. So, it's a lot of work for all of us, but we try to manage it and do the best we can with it.
Give me an idea of how much shooting, like how much footage does Jonathan end up with after a single race day? Because like obviously he's got to take all of those and then distill it down into whatever a 15 or 20-minute video. But I just want people to have an idea of exactly how much stuff he has to go through from a race day.
I think so I haven't made a vlog in a long time. Used to, I would, kind of swap, take over for him sometimes, or I'd help him edit. But, I haven't been involved in that process since we started the streaming company very much. But I know his goal, I think he told me, was to have less than 3 hours of footage to go through. And then, like you said, you're trying to cut that down. And that's just vlog footage. That's on his GoPro. That doesn't include the actual racing, right, on the track. That's, different camera, different card. But on that vlog, under 3 hours to cut down to essentially 15 minutes, of vlog footage. And then you add in the race footage for a, 25-ish minute video. I think that's his goal. But a lot of times, like, you're so worried about missing something, right, that you have the camera rolling more. And he probably ends up with more like 4 to even 6 hours worth of footage. On a single race night. And then you're talking about, all these races nowadays are, 2 or 3 night events, the Eldora trip, where you're basically shooting content from Tuesday. Let's put this from Labor Day weekend, where we did the back-to-back Hunt the Front Series races, the Cletus McFarland event at Bristol, the Bristol 1000. And then you had 2 days off and then we're at Eldora racing. So, I mean, that's probably, easily 35 hours of footage, if not more, that he's going through in a week. So it's a ton of stuff, a ton to, and the crazy part is he does it all on his iPad. He doesn't even have a computer, so, which is easy for traveling, but at the same time for managing files and everything is not ideal. So, it's crazy. He's definitely, figured out a system that works for him, that, the way he does it, that, works, and, people, seems to be doing okay. So hopefully, he can keep that up and not burn himself out too much.
Well, I appreciate you giving me some time today. I know you guys are super busy, and I know you got little ones and stuff too that you got to chase around today. But give me all of the bullet points for the weekend. Where can we watch? Where, tickets? Like, give me the full rundown on the National 100 weekend.
Yeah, National 100, the 49th annual National 100 at East Alabama Motor Speedway. It is a 4-day event. They start with practice on Thursday for all divisions. They'll have some local division heat racing going on Friday, along with practice for supers and the other divisions. And then it's a unique event. Saturday, they race during the afternoon with local divisions, both Saturday with heat races, and then Sunday with B mains and features for local divisions. They'll have, but all the super late model stuff will be done Saturday evening and Sunday evening. So that is one thing we worked with them to figure out the schedule where it doesn't drag out, and they also have time to rework the track for Saturday evening when we'll run prelims. And then Sunday evening, we'll run the B mains and the 49,000 to win 100-lap main event. Both evening portions we plan to start around 6 o'clock, and Saturday we'll run a little later because we got some local division features to run. But on Sunday it'll only be super late model hot laps, super late model B mains, super late model feature. We hope to be out of there by 8 o'clock, at latest 9 o'clock Sunday evening. That is Eastern time. It's the only state in city in Alabama that's on Eastern time there, Phoenix City, Alabama. So if you can make it to the track, we promise. They know it's a Sunday event, but we promise to do our best to get you out of there early for Monday if you got work. And then obviously if you can't, you can watch every bit of it live on huntthefront.tv. We got the Hunt the Front TV app, or on the web at huntthefront.tv. Every lap will be live there, and we'd appreciate you tuning in.
What are the drivers you expect?
We got Ricky Thornton Jr., looking to bounce back from the disappointment of the Lucas Oil Championship there, the heartbreak, if you will. He's scheduled to be there, and I already saw where in his post last night about not winning the championship, how he's moving on and ready for East Alabama. So it'll be his first trip there. Obviously, we're excited to have him. Brandon Overton, the two-time defending race winner, is going to be there. We got Dale McDowell, a two-time winner, coming. Chris Madden, also a two-time winner, coming. I was told if Scott Bloomquist made it through Eldora with his health, or his foot, I guess he broke, had a foot issue, and obviously he's had his surgeries and everything. If he'd get back in the seat for Eldora, if he made it through, they were planning on coming. That would be pretty cool to have him. Tyler Erb's supposed to be there. Dennis Erb is coming. And I know Tanner English. It's a unique one to interested in. So a lot of national guys, and then you mix in our guys like Josh Putnam, our Hunt the Front Super Dirt Series champion. Joseph Joyner will be there. Will Harrington is going to be there. A lot of good regional guys to mix in with the national guys should make for a great show, hopefully.
Nice. Well, Joshua, I appreciate the time today. Good luck with everything, and we'll look forward to both this weekend and your schedule for 2024.
All right. Appreciate you having me. Thank you.